So you're out there vlogging your little heart out, filming an epic vacation or just whatever you're doing, right? You're shooting handheld on a camera like maybe the ZV-1 or the ZV-E10 or just any other type of camera like that, and you find your footage just a little too shaky for your taste. Well, today we're going to look at using a program like Topaz Video AI to see how well we can salvage that shaky footage. I'm Joel, and on this channel you're going to find videos about filmmaking, photography, and just kind of whatever else I decide to post. So if you're shooting on a Sony camera like a ZV-E10 or a ZV-E1, be sure to check out my other video up in the corner here where I actually did a test with the ZV-E10 and the Catalyst Browse software. And also, this video is not sponsored by Topaz Labs, although I am an affiliate with them, and of course I have a link in the description if you do decide to check it out. So in this video, we're going to be using footage shot on the Sony ZV-E10, and I paired that with an 11mm APS-C Sony lens. So just so you know, that 11mm APS-C Sony lens ends up being about the equivalent of 16mm on a full frame camera if you're shooting at 24 frames per second on the Sony ZV-E10, or equivalency of about 19mm if you're shooting at 30 frames per second. So starting off, we're going to look at two separate clips. The first clip was shot without any in-camera stabilization whatsoever, and the second one was shot with the Active Steadyshot enabled in the Sony camera. Okay, so this is going to be kind of like our baseline for comparison here, so we can just kind of see how well the Topaz Video AI software does against unstabilized versus the abilities that the active stabilization gives you. And also I'll mention that the shutter speed on this was, I think, 1/80th to 1/100th of a second. Okay, and now we've got exactly the same setup, but this time I've got everything turned off, so no stabilization whatsoever. So here's our first raw clip straight out of the camera without any stabilization whatsoever. As you can see, it's pretty rough, right? There's a lot of bumps, maybe a little bit of jello, just kind of all over the place. All right, next, I turned on the active stabilization in the camera. Now, the first thing you probably notice is that crop. This thing crops in a ton, even on a super wide lens like the Sony 11mm. In fact, it's cropping in an additional 40%. That's bringing our effective focal length to 27mm at 30 frames per second on the Sony ZV-E10. Now, despite that crop, I have to say the footage is looking quite a bit better. All right, now here's a quick side-by-side comparison versus that unstabilized footage and then the active stabilized footage with the Active Steadyshot in camera. You can really see the crop here. Now, what we find out next is just how well the Topaz Video AI can actually perform. Can it fix the shaky, bumpy footage? Next, I ran both clips through Topaz Video AI just to see how well that software does to stabilize these clips even further. So we're starting with our original unstabilized clip, and I processed this with Topaz Video AI. Now, this was stabilized on auto resize settings using the Proteus model. Now let's look at a quick side-by-side of the unstabilized footage versus the Topaz Video AI stabilized footage using the auto resize settings. How well do you think the Topaz Video AI did on this clip? I think it did a pretty decent job. The big question is, how does it compare to our original unstabilized footage? And of course, then the active steady shot footage. So now we're going to take this one step further and see if we can improve that active stabilized clip even further running it through Topaz Video AI. Here's what we got after running that active stabilized clip through Topaz Video AI. We used auto settings set to 50% strength and allowing it to actually crop the original file. So that means that it was not upscaled in Topaz Video AI at all. So I had to upscale it in my editing program at an extra 26% to match it back to the full 4K frame. I think it did a really good job reducing the jerkiness, although it's not really helping much with the motion blur and the jello that you get from those bigger bumps. Here's a quick side-by-side of that non-stabilized clip versus this clip here with the active stabilized clip at 50%. So now how much does changing the strength settings in Topaz Video AI affect the outcome of the clips? So I ran this one more time at an even lower strength setting of just 25%. This time I set the auto crop to also upscale it back to the original 4K resolution, all within Topaz Video AI. Now the first thing I really notice is that I'm not really seeing much of any kind of crop, even though I know it's got to be doing something in there. Again, we also can't really do anything about that motion blur again from the sensor bumps, but it is still helping quite a bit. Now here's that same footage again versus this most recent clip set at 25% with auto recropping and resizing. And so now here's all three of those clips together. So what do you think how well the Topaz Video AI software did to improve that active steady shot footage? Did changing the strength settings make much of a difference? Personally, I think the best one was at 25% strength setting, mainly because it doesn't crop in, if barely at all, but it's still providing more smoothness and less jerkiness. Okay, now let's do one final comparison where we look at our original unstabilized clip that I processed with Topaz Video AI versus that active steady shot clip that I further processed with Topaz Video AI at 25% strength setting. So what are your thoughts? Are you really noticing much of a difference between the two, other than, of course, the crop? So the most glaring thing that I noticed looking back at those clips was honestly just how well the Topaz Video AI did on that original unstabilized footage. I mean, the active steady shot clip also looked really, really good, especially after processing even further, but I still feel like it's just way too cropped in for my taste. So finally, there's a couple more things to mention. So these are kind of like the caveats. Basically, first, that running anything through Topaz Video AI is very time consuming and it can be very slow on your computer. For instance, I'm using an Asus ZenBook Duo. It's got an i9, 32 megs of RAM, and a 2060 RTX card in it. And each of these clips, the original clips, were between 30 and 36 seconds long when I processed them, and it took between 12 and 36 minutes to render each one, which is a really, really long time for such a short clip. Now, of course, your results might vary, especially if you have a much beefier, editing software and editing computer than I'm using. Now, for comparison, that's almost 2 to 3 times as much time it took to process through Catalyst Browse. Because I had, like in that previous video that if you hadn't watched it, in that previous video where I processed everything through Catalyst Browse, I mean, it took like 6 minutes or something like that. So definitely check that out and you can get a better comparison there. Also, all the tests were processed using version 3.0.6 of Topaz Video AI. Now, the second big thing is the cost. Topaz Video AI is not cheap. It costs usually about $299, although you can find deals. I think they just had a deal here recently where it got you like $50 off. Sometimes you can get even a little bit deeper discounts than that too. All right, so kind of in a conclusion, to wrap this all up, I really think that Topaz Video AI did a really good job here. It can be super valuable, especially to salvage a shaky clip. Now, would you use it on a family vacation? Probably not, but in a more professional setting, absolutely, right? It's also important to note that Topaz Video AI does a lot more than just stabilize the footage. I haven't tested all of the other aspects of it yet, but it can also basically be used to make just about any clip slow motion, which is something that I think I want to definitely test out. Also, you can use it to pretty much enhance and upscale clips all the way up to 4K or even 8K. You can use it to restore low quality footage, like maybe some old VHS tapes or even some DV tapes or Hi8 or something like that. You can use it to deinterlace footage, like those tapes if you wanted to. Also, you can use it to help remove noise and sharpen footage as well. So if you're interested in getting Topaz Video AI, or any of the gear that I've used in this video, you can check out the links in the description below. Also, let me know if there's any specific tests that you'd like me to do here on this channel, especially relating to Topaz Video AI. And you can buy my computer Scarlett a beer for all of the hard work she's done rendering out all of these clips for you, as well as this video. And I'll definitely make sure that she enjoys it. Thanks in advance. Subscribe for more videos like this, or just kind of whatever else I decide to post. Cheers.